I'd like to thank each one of you for donating to us to make it possible for us to get to go on our trip. I'm going to try to explain just a little bit about what Houston was like. The ride was about 17 hours, plus stops, of course, and then I think we left at like 7 or 8 at night, drove all night long, and so we did, of course, didn't sleep any. I mean, it was really hard, so I was waiting, just looking around, waiting for us to get there. And then we got there probably about 11 or 12, probably about noon the next day. So we waited and waited and waited until about 3 o'clock to get into our room. We sat there in Walmart, went swimming, we did all kinds of different things.
Hey, come on, we're gonna go make some. Come on. just show us the back of your shirt? Come on out so everybody can see it. Can you turn? There we go. Can you all see the back of the shirt? It says bent, but not broken. Good. Awesome. Thank you. So just taking from the theme, bent but not broken, very good. The idea is like a palm tree. When it's very, very windy and stormy outside, if you've seen the hurricane pictures in Florida, Erica arrived safely in Florida during the hurricane, but she got there just before it happened, and now she's back. Internship went well. Got your master's, she's all done. Got her master's degree, and she's all elite and smart now. We're all below her now with her master's. She's worked really, really hard to get her master's, so she did a great job. She's going to go for a doctorate, I don't know. But congratulations on that. But if you've ever seen a palm tree during a hurricane, it bends and bends during that, but not very often do palm trees break. You do see the bands on them, and you do see that they might break, of course, but most of them will just bend in the wind, but yet don't break. And so they stand up the next couple of days, they stand up strong, and they're beautiful again. And so the verse comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8. So that 8 comes from this verse. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 and 9, verses 8 and 9. And you can read it later if you'd like. Do we pass out bulletins so that they can write down? You can write notes on the back of the bulletin. Does anybody need a bulletin? We can pass those out really quick. Anyone over here need a bulletin? Need a bulletin to take notes? So over here, Bruce. So, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. So on the very back, there's a place for you to write sermon notes. It says sermon notes on the back. Thank you to Susan for creating our bulletin and making it look different and nice. We have back to school theme today. Back to school theme, and we'll talk about that after prayer and after the service today. But in verse 8 it says, "We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We're perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted," in verse 9, "persecuted but not forsaken, cast down but not destroyed." And so the point of this is that we can bend, but we won't break. And the Bible, there's a biblical character that we often use for this, and it's the life of Joseph. You know the character of Joseph. As a young man, he was lined up with his brothers, 12 of them in all, 12 brothers, or 11 brothers, so there's 12 of them in all. He's got one sister, and Jacob was his father. And Jacob loved Joseph. He preferred him over all the other brothers. 13 of them, all the siblings, everyone there, and I can tell you where this is from. It's in Genesis chapter 37, and it goes several chapters all the way through chapter 50. But in 15 minutes, I will try to, summarize that into all those chapters. So if you get your goggles on, we're ready. But all of Joseph's brothers were lined up, and then Dinah, his sister. So they all lined up. I don't remember all their names. Sorry, I'm not going to go through that. But Benjamin was the youngest. you call him Ben. And then Joseph was the second youngest. But the father preferred, the brothers noticed that their dad kind of preferred Joseph over them. And he just loved Joseph, and he made him a coat of many colors and placed it on Joseph in honor to the son. And all the other brothers noticed the preference that the father was giving, and they became jealous, and they didn't agree with the injustice, and they thought, this is not right, and what can we do to them? And Joseph didn't act and say, Dad, pay attention to me, look at me, look at me. He just was humble and just was the son, but the brothers noticed that the dad preferred him over all the others, and so they plotted a plan to kill him. They were going to take him out to, they went on a long hike, and they thought, we'll kill him, and one of the other brothers said, let's not do that, let's not kill him, let's sell him, we can get some money off of this guy. So we'll trade him and sell him. At that time, Egypt, around that area, of the Nile River, they walked along the Nile. Typically, Israel was up above there in the north, and they would come down for trade on the Nile River. And so the brothers decided, instead of killing him, we'll just trade him, we'll sell him, and we'll never see him again. And then we'll fool our father and say he's dead, and kill an animal, and use the blood of an animal to put it all over that coat of many colors that his father had given, and place the blood on the coat, and take the coat back to the father and tell him that he died. And so they put him in a pit. They put Joseph in a pit. It was like a well back then, and he couldn't climb out, he couldn't get out. So they left him in the pit while they discussed what to do, deciding whether or not to kill him. And then a tradesman came by, Midianite came by, and they were on their way to the Nile for trade. And so they said, hey, we've got something to sell. Here, look at this big, strong guy. And so they traded him and sold him for 20 or 30 pieces of silver. I'm not sure how much it was, but they traded him and sold him off into slavery. Bye-bye, Joseph. My brothers thought, well, we're rid of him. Let's go show Dad. And so they took the coat back, and they were so, acted like they were grieved over his death, and took the coat and gave the coat back to the dad with the blood all over it. And he was so upset. Oh, no. And he put ashes on his head. It's something that they did in their culture back then. He was sad, and it was a time of mourning that his son had passed, and my favorite son is gone, and the brothers, of course, are just giggling at this plan that they concocted. And Joseph was sold into slavery and gone, and he was taken to Egypt. He was taken to Egypt and sold again, and remained in Egypt. And then he was under some man in his house, and he did slave work in that house, and he worked really hard and did a good job, and he was praised for the things that he did do. And finally, he ended up being next in charge of the Pharaoh. And they were sent off to battle, and the Pharaoh left for battle, and the wife of the Pharaoh came and said, hey, Joseph, hey, why don't you come and stay with me? Come on. She was kind of flirty and wanted him to stay with her. And he knew that that was the wrong thing to do, and he left. He fled, and she grabbed his coat, she grabbed his outer garment, and he just took it off and left it with her. And he left, flee. And then the Pharaoh came home, and the wife said, look, he tried to seduce me. And so the Pharaoh put him in prison. He stayed in prison for a really long time, even though he was innocent and never did anything wrong. And there were several others that were also put in jail. There was a butcher, who was kind of an assistant and kind of a servant in the house who served meals and different things. And he and a baker got in trouble, and they were both put in prison as well. And they were there, all of them accused of things that they hadn't done. And while in prison for, I don't know how many years, 3 or 4 years, these two had a dream, the baker and the butler. They had dreams, and they didn't know. Joseph didn't know. I mean, they're just sitting in jail, and when they were talking one day, one of them said, I had a dream, and told Joseph about their dream. And Joseph said, wow, that dream, the dream that you just told me, he prayed to God, and he said, God, what does this dream mean? If you would just reveal that to me. And God answered his prayer and told him what the dream meant. So Joseph told one of them what his dream was all about. And he said, when you get out of here, you're going to die. That's what that dream meant. And he told him the events that would happen and the events that take place. And he came to the end of his sentence and he was leaving. And Joseph said, please remember me. I helped you and I'm trying to save you from this and told you about your dream. Please remember me. I'm innocent. And, tell them that I'm innocent. And then the other one, in history, you could read about buccaneers and all of those things, or musketeers, is that what you said? What you signed over there? You spelled something, I don't know. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, and I'm just kind of describing what he looked like, King Nebuchadnezzar. Anyway, that king had a dream as well, and the dream was revealed that there were 2 calves, and one was very, very thin, 7 thin cows, and then 7 fat cows. And so these cattle, they were near the Nile River, and the fat cows were there as well, and they were feasting on the ground. And from the river, the thin cows came over to take over and eat all of the food from the 7 fat cows and swallowed them whole. They ate the cows, the thin cows. So the king thought, this is a weird dream. I wonder what this dream is all about. And it woke him up, and he called the baker, and he called the butler and other people in, and he said, I have this dream. It's so weird. Can anybody tell me what it meant? And they thought, finally, after all these years, they said, oh, wait, there's somebody in jail who can tell you what the dreams meant. And, you can't speak out loud to a king. They'll cut off your head. So they said, there's Joseph is in prison, and he says he's innocent, but he can interpret dreams for you. And they said, you know what, if he can't, then off with your heads. And so they brought Joseph before the King Nebuchadnezzar, and Joseph, again, he's just this little Jewish guy, and he's just standing there before the king, and the king explained his dreams about the 7 thin cows who ate the 7 fat cows, and Joseph just prayed, God, what does this dream mean? Can you give me the answer? God answered his prayer and told him what the dream meant, and he said, you will have famine in the land. I'm sorry, I got it backwards. There will be land, the land will be plenty of food and grain and corn for 7 years. You'll have 7 years of plenty, and then 7 years of famine, and people will be starving. And the land will be starving not only in Egypt, but all around Egypt and Israel, and all of the places all around Egypt. There'll be a famine for 7 years. And the king said 7 years, not 7 years of plenty, and then 7 years of famine. Well, okay, I accept the interpretation of your dream, and these 2 attested that your dream interpretations were correct for them. So he placed him as assistant to the Pharaoh and left him there. And for 7 years, when it was land of plenty, they stored all over the country of Egypt. They took the time to store for the upcoming 7 years of famine. And he said, you're responsible for people buying and selling. You're responsible for all the trade and the storage for 7 years so that we can live through the next 7. And so that was great power. I mean, he goes from jail to being a great power. And the king and Nebuchadnezzar just believed everything that he said. And, their language, if you've ever seen the hieroglyphics of Egypt, just the interesting language. But he was able to read and write in their language and translated things, and was given great responsibility to trade. So during the 7 years of plenty, they stored up, and when the famine hit, there was no rain. Sure enough, after 7 years, no rain and no crops, no food. They were able to use what was stored for 7 years, and no one starved to death because of that. And so Joseph was in charge of handing out all that was stored for 7 years to keep the people alive and well. And so great responsibility. But remember, it wasn't just in Egypt, it was all around Israel. The famine was taking place, and so these brothers of Joseph were starving. They heard that there was actually food. There was plenty of food in storage in Egypt, and they knew that they could go to Egypt, and all of the brothers except Benjamin, who was the youngest, he was, again, the next favorite since Joseph was gone. The dad stayed, and Benjamin stayed, but all the other brothers went to Egypt to trade whatever they had in order to bring food back for the family. And so whatever they had, they took with them and they went to Egypt. And they entered Egypt, and they couldn't go before the king, of course. They have to go through the assistant. They thought, well, that's fine, we'll just go see the second in charge and second in command. And so they bowed before the second in command in honor, and they thought that they would be able to buy grain and corn and things that they needed. And when Joseph came in as the second in command, he sees these brothers kneeling down before him. And I don't know if you can imagine this, these brothers that sold him and, plotted to kill him. And can you imagine, man, for that many years of being in slavery and then in jail and all the things that took place over the many, many years, he could have gotten revenge. And when he finally sees them, I'm sure after many, many years, he had a whole plot of things that he could have done to his brothers to get them back. And so he came before them and prayed about what to do, and he came before them and he said, why have you come before me? And the brothers bowed down and they said, well, we are in famine and we don't know, we were hoping that you would give us something. And Joseph just saw them and he was kind to them and provided for their needs. And instead, he decided to tell them, instead of revenge, he said, the grain and whatnot that you want to buy, he said, is these 10 of you, is that the only brother that you have? Is this all of your family? And they said, well, we do have another brother. We've got one that died a long time ago, and we've got the youngest, Benjamin. And he said, go home and get Benjamin and bring Benjamin as well. I want all of the brothers here. And they thought, oh my goodness, we've got to go all the way back. And they didn't have a motorcycle or a bus or any, fun transportation to go all the way. They had to walk all the way back to Israel to get the youngest brother. So they met the father and they said, the second in charge in the kingdom said that we have to bring all of the family. That means brother, that means Benjamin, and that means everyone. And he said, I want the youngest to stay. I don't want him to go. What if he dies like Joseph? I don't want him to go. But he was willing to let him go because the second in charge asked for him. And so the father also, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later, but they said Benjamin and all the brothers came back before Joseph. And he said, is this all